Hello, welcome once again to another episode of 177 Nations of Tasmania podcast. I'm willing to bet that if I mention the name Benin, most Australians will ask, what's that? Well, Benin is a relatively small West African country bordering Nigeria and Togo. It was once part of a powerful empire, was a major centre for the Atlantic slave trade, and is known as the original home of Voodoo. My guest for this episode is Micheal, who has certainly had plenty of practice explaining that Benin is a real country since arriving in Tasmania a year ago. Micheal has a pretty fascinating story to tell, from a tough life at boarding school in Nigeria as a child to uni in Ghana, and then a scholarship took him to Israel for a year to study. There he met a Filipino girl who became the reason for him coming to Tasmania. But Micheal arrived in Tasmania alone to study, knowing no one, with little money and no long-term accommodation. What happened after that and how he got on his feet is a story well worth listening to because it's pretty remarkable. So please listen and enjoy.
I was born in Cotonou, and it's actually the capital city, economic capital of Benin, because Port Novo is the main capital, but it's not as developed as... It's just like Canberra and, I'll say, Sydney. I can give that comparison. But yeah, I grew up in Cotonou, and Benin is a French-speaking country, and they actually are the origin of Voodoo. Voodoo is a culture and a religion, and these days it's been demonized a bit, a lot, not even a bit.
Yeah.
Like when you say voodoo, they think of a doll and everything, but voodoo is actually a culture and it's a way of life of people, Like growing up, I saw a lot of people who practice that, and being from a Christian home, because my dad was a preacher. He's a preacher in Benin.
Okay.
So it's kind of conflicting. But I actually grew up to understand that they are actually just normal people who are just worshiping their divinity and trying to protect themselves, spiritually. Yeah. Yeah, and it's their identity. Voodoo is an identity. I did my primary school in an English school in Benin. It was actually an American school in Benin Republic. So growing up, I would say I was a bit comfortable, but I was not rich, but I wasn't poor like I can't afford to go to school.
Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
what did your family do?
Oh, then my mom, she was a teacher, and she taught in a primary school, and my dad, he worked in the market. He was just selling clothes, second-hand clothes, and he was also a part-time pastor.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had two sisters, an elder one and a younger one, but my childhood was just, there was no war, because it's a very peaceful country. Mm-hmm. Benin is so peaceful, so it wasn't a scary picture. It was a peaceful one. Everybody has what they have. They go to do what they have to do. You're focused on your school, come back home, mom and dad, together. Just a humble home, I would say. I had to leave home when I was 9 because apparently my dad, he needs me to toughen up because I was the only boy and he felt I was being pampered too much.
Right.
It's a very common thing back home. So he sent me to Ogun State. Ogun State is a Yoruba state in Nigeria. He sent me to Ogun State when I was 9 and I was in boarding school. So every holiday I come back, but most of the year I'm there. And it was the most horrific experience I've ever had. Nigeria is not funny at all. It's not funny at all.
What was horrific about it?
I feel everybody in Nigeria knows that if you're going to a boarding school, a federal government boarding school in Nigeria, and not only in Nigeria, but in a state like Ogun State, you're in for trouble. But I feel it shaped me, and it put that mindset of that fighting spirit, you know. So only our class, the population in just my level were close to 500, 600. Talk more of other classes. And the school provides for the food. In your hostel, you're sleeping in a bunk, and you can be 50 something in a room, like in the whole hall. You just have a tiny corner for yourself apart from your bed. And everybody had roles. You wake up at 5 a.m., you have to run with a bucket, which someone might have already stolen.
Right.
Go fetch water, come back, shower before 7. Make sure you're dressed up in your uniform. Go to the dining hall. The food they serve you, because there are seniors on the table, sometimes you have the smallest because you have to respect. It's like a form of respect to the elders. So you're not being fed so well. And after that, you go to class from morning till 2. Then after that, you come back for dining. 3, go back to the hostel. You have another time. You have some time for yourself, like 1 or 2 hours. Then you go for dining again by 6. Then after that, you go for night prep, which is compulsory reading till 9. Then you go back to your dormitory, wash your stuffs, hang, sleep for the next day. That was my life for 4 years. I'm just giving a layer because there are different foundations and, because there's a lot of hierarchy there. Your seniors, you must always obey. Like sometimes you're just walking on the road, they'll just call, last boy. Every boy must run. If you're the last, they send you on errands. This happened. If there's a day you don't hear last boy, that's a lucky day. I'm just giving a layer because there are different foundations and, because there's a lot of hierarchy there. Your seniors, you must always obey. Like sometimes you're just walking on the road, they'll just call, last boy. Every boy must run. If you're the last, they send you on errands. This happened. If there's a day you don't hear last boy, that's a lucky day.
What happened when you finished that?
I came back to Benin and I started secondary school in Benin. And I was in art class. And at this stage, my parents opened a tourism company, and they sell tickets, and so they started that, and they also did tours around of Benin. People who want to visit Benin, people who want to visit Nigeria, Ghana, and slowly they started going international. Now they are even doing America. They do America every year, Eductor. And they do Israel. Okay. Then they just stopped that now because of what is happening. But that's for pilgrimage. And it was going on for a while. So at this time, life was getting a bit easier when I came back to Benin. And I feel it was necessary for me to come back at that point. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have had like the culture of Benin, because living at 9, and going to Nigeria, spending 4 years and coming back. And if I continued there, I would have just been a full Nigerian. Did all my high school, and I finished. I graduated in Benin, and then I moved to Ghana.
And when you were at school, at high school, like, did you have a plan to where you wanted to go?
I wanted to play soccer.
Okay.
I feel this is every child's dream.
Yeah.
To if they're good at a sport, they want to take it to the next level every time. But yeah, I was in the school team. I was good. I would say fair enough. I was good, but even my family didn't even want that because they're like, "Oh, you're the only guy, and it's a gamble. You know, how many people actually make it pro, even abroad? Talk more of you here. So just take it as a hobby. If it works, but focus on something else." Because I didn't want to go to uni at all.
Okay.
I didn't want to go to uni. I wanted to just do this for the rest of my life. But yeah, this was where I had to change. And I decided to go to Ghana. In my head, I was like, if I go to Ghana, I have more freedom to actually focus on football. That was what was in my head then. And I went to uni in Ghana. I studied sociology, information, and sport. Very, very diverse things.
And what did you think you were going to do with that?
My plan was drop sociology first year, second year, drop information third year, graduate with a sports degree. And during that time, I already have be playing for the school. And the school is actually really big because I was in University of Ghana. That's I would say is the biggest school in West Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a big one. So if I can make it in their team, I have a chance. So that's what I was going with in my head. But when I got to Ghana, it was a whole different story. Like, I felt like I was coming from the past. But Ghana is like where everything is happening. Everybody is dressing so good. Like, why are you dressing so much just to go out, you know? Because back home, we don't really care, you know? So it was a whole different, before I could enter their culture, it took a while. I understood the broken English of Nigeria, but Ghana has their own. And it's hard. So I had to learn Ghanaian broken English.
Okay.
It's tough. Trust me, it took me a year. And I had to drop out in my third year from uni. That was the worst time of my...
Nice. What caused that?
It was financial issues.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were paying a lot. We had to pay in dollars in Ghana. You can't pay in local currency. They only accepted dollars. And my elder sister, was in that school too. So they were paying my fees and her fees. So it was not possible at some point. They were like, they've tried their best. And for me, I was like, no way. Like, I just need one more year and I'm done. Like, why did I start at the beginning? And at this point, my football career isn't going well. I dropped sports in the first year because I saw it was more about physical education. I thought we'll be going and be playing soccer.
Right.
So I dropped that and I majored in information and minored in sociology because I was kind of enjoying the information classes and everything. But at that point, it was like, nah, we have to defer for a year. And packed our things, left for Benin. The depression was heavy. Like, I feel that moment, that was the worst time in my whole life. So I was the only one at home.
Yeah, right.
And it was tough for me mentally. But I started working with my parents again. I went to the office and a man came in and he was like, "Oh, I'm just here to tell your mom because she's not around that the students who are going to Israel this year, we can buy our tickets from you. The people who are giving the scholarship are gonna buy the tickets and they have their own flight, like everything. So we are not gonna buy from you this year." Then I was like, "What tickets? What scholarship?" And he was like, "Oh, it's we take people to Israel, 20 people every year for a scholarship, and it's in agriculture." I was like, "Wow, all right, I'll tell my mom." Then I went to tell her when she came back, and she was like, "Wow, why don't you just register?"
Right.
And I was like, "But I don't know anything in agriculture. Why should I just, go and register?" She was like, "But you can learn, just put your name there." And I called him. He was like, I told him, "Can I register?" He was like, "Oh, it's the last day, but okay, no problem. I'll be the last person that registers." And there were up to 1,000 people who
Oh,
applied.
really?
And these people are in the field of agriculture for years. So for me, I was just like, let me just put my name. Whatever happens, I don't care. But then they called me for the first interview. Before I came for that, I visited a village, but it's a center. It's called Songhai, and they teach people agriculture, and they do horticulture. They do animal processing too. They do basically everything there, and they don't use any chemical products. So everything is natural. Everything is transformed. So I just went there and I saw how they take the compost. They use it for this. They get the compost from the animals. They put it in this, that. I was like, wow, this is actually amazing. Like, I never thought of like agriculture being this. I went back home and with the knowledge I had in information, and also I loved computer stuffs too and everything. So I was like, I wrote a project because we had to submit a project and present it to the people who came from Israel, and they'll choose 20 people from our country. And in the project, I just wrote, I wanted to create a platform where producers of agricultural raw stuffs, like whether you're a local tomato farmer or potato farmer, like you can, a platform for where the buyers and the sellers can meet. And when it was my turn to present the project, they were like, "Why are you wearing a suit? Every other person isn't wearing a suit." Then I was like, "Oh, I just felt like." Then she was like, "Okay, what do you have to say?" Then I asked her, "Do you want me to go in English or you want me to go in French?" Then she was like, "You understand English and French?" And I was like, "Yeah, I understand English." And she was like, "Okay, perfect. We need someone on the team that can be bilingual, because going to Israel, if you only speak French, not many people speak French. So English, you might be able to communicate. So you know what? You're qualified." That was it. I didn't even have to say much. Didn't have to. On that day, I got the scholarship. And this was the government of Benin that was sponsoring. So it's a big thing.
So how long between getting the scholarship and going to Israel was it?
It actually took almost 2 years because
wow, yeah.
COVID came up. That's what delayed it.
Okay.
At some point, it was even like, "Oh, is this even happening anymore?" Because COVID was becoming way, way, way intense and everything. We're meant to go just before COVID. 2021.
Yeah.
2021, December, that's when we left. We started because in Israel, they have Shabbat. Shabbat is
Yeah.
from Friday evening from 4, I guess, till Saturday, 6 p.m., thereabout. So you have only one day of rest. You have one day of school where you go and they teach you everything, theory, blah, blah, blah. But the rest of the week, you're doing on-job training. And I started on a mushroom farm. Yeah, a cold room. It was good, I won't lie, from the beginning. But slowly, I felt like I wasn't learning enough because I'm just in a cold room and it's mushroom. I can't go and do mushroom back home. And my head at that point was I'm going back to my country to start something because I'm saving money also here. Because it was paid on job training. So I complained to the school, and after 3 months, they changed my farm. But because of the complaint, the school was like, oh, you know what? Let's give him the worst farm. They sent me to a jungle. That was where it's changed from a scholarship to a slave trade, literally.
Really?
I promise you. Because the work there, you're bending from morning, you wake up by 6, you start work, you enter the train, you clock in, then you're bending down, harvesting cabbages, harvesting, there's something they call kohlrabi, also broccoli. Like, those were the 3 major ones, but then they had a greenhouse that had bell peppers. And during summer, like heavy summer, peaches started growing. They have a farm of fruit trees, a big farm of fruit trees. So we started picking that one later on. But why I say it was tough was, at this point, we're doing more of work. Like, the work was so physical. We wake up, we work from 6, we have 1 hour break till 7 p.m. when the sun goes down.
Right.
Then sometimes, like the time of the pitch, you enter the packing house. Even from the 7 p.m., you work till like 10. Then after that, you have to go and cook, shower. The little time you have to call your family and friends, then sleep and wake up again. And you're waking up around 5 or 4 because you have to cook for the work.
So you were basically like farm workers.
Yeah.
Pretty hard-working farm workers.
At some point, I wanted to give up. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is too much. My back every day. And what am I doing this for? Like, it felt like there's no future with this. Like, I came here like with a scholarship.
And you're meant to be learning rather
I'm
than...
meant to be learning every day. We were in the presidents before we left. That's how important. Like, we were on a mission. Like, they sent us on a mission to this country, and this is what we are doing. So in my head, I was like, what is going on? So where's the learning? I know we learned some, like, we went to school. We learned a lot, actually, because Israel is a country where it's a desert, and the fact that they are exporting this much is unbelievable. So there's a lot to learn. Irrigation-wise, I learned a lot. And the diploma we got from Israel is so strong, you know. And just basic knowledge in agriculture. Like, it was so good for me. For the people who knew agriculture already, they were so angry. They were like, why am I learning this again? You know, but for me, I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing, you know.
Yeah.
I know some people who fell off trees, they were sent back home because now they can't do the work. And reading the contract again, I'm just like, what? I was in serious problem if something went wrong. There was a Benin guy, my friend. He went to play soccer, and then there were kids there, and he didn't want the kids to play because we are so big. We don't want to injure the kids and have problem, you know. So he was like, no, don't play. The kid went to tell the parents, apparently, something else. And we're just coming from the football. These people came out from their temple and beat him mercilessly. Like, we had to run and went to call the police The police came there. This guy was bleeding here already. They've beaten him and everything. The police took him. Yes.
Why?
I don't know. Apparently, when they got to the station, they told him the child said you were molesting him. Like you touched him inappropriately.
Oh, God.
And he was like, no, there are cameras where we play soccer. Go and look. They went, took the camera. They didn't see anything. So they asked him, do you know the person who hit you? He said, no. He said, do you remember any of their faces? He said, no, there were so many. Then he said, okay, go. They didn't do anything to the person. That was it. We reported to the school. The school didn't do anything. The countries that are qualified for this program are all third world countries. No first world country. Filipino, that's where I met my ex. The girl that brought me here and everything, the Filipino. Yeah.
So how did things end up?
Finished the school, the 1 year program, because it was for 1 year. And I found this girl there and she was in my class and I fell in love. And my plan was to go back home and continue with my tourism, because I was working for my parents. But for me, I want to expand it because I was already gaining a name in Benin before coming here because I had a social media presence and they knew me as the tourism guy. And during this time in Israel, Benin was exploding in tourism. Like the president just shifted his focus and he was like, you know what? Let's sell Benin. That's when the movie came out. He brought such a big statue. That's a big monument. When you even type Benin, that's one of the first things you see. A woman, the Amazon. So now Benin was high on export, like the story. And tourism was getting so big in Benin. So for me, in my head, gather the money, get enough equipment, go back home, start something, But then I met her and she was like, oh, she wants to go to Australia. All I knew about Australia then is don't go there. The animals in Australia are going to kill you. That's all I knew about Australia, to be honest. I didn't know anything about Australia. It was that bad. But then she was like, oh no, you can actually get a better life and you can actually settle down way easier than you going back home. And it gives us a future to see each other again. If not, this is not going to be a thing, And I was like, all right, I'll give it a thought. Then I spoke with family too about it and they were like, oh, sure. If you think this is what you want to do, go for it. Literally all my savings was going into that because I spent close to $15,000 coming here.
Wow. Yeah, it is expensive.
It is expensive.
That's including like the cost of visa,
the flight, the visa, the agency fees, the travels I had to do to verify my documents, the medical tests, everything I had to do before I came here.
And you were applying from Benin?
Benin.
Yeah.
First person again applying from Benin. So there's no embassy, there's no information, there is nothing. It was tough. I don't know how to explain it was tough, but like for 6 months straight, I was living like a zombie because information is very scarce, and you're applying from somewhere that the government doesn't even really know about. Even for me to go and do my medical, I had to travel to another country. I couldn't do any verbal check, any identity check or anything because my country is like, there's nothing close to that there. So I went to Ghana, I went to Nigeria, just all this, and this is why the expense is that much. All this just to get some information and do this test here, get this there. I had to translate a lot of documents to English. It was so many, there were so many documents.
And what visa were you applying
Student.
for? It's just, student visa. Okay.
Student visa to come here. So it was a gamble, but I don't know what was inside me, but I believed so much I would get it.
And you came directly to Tasmania.
Directly to Tasmania. And guess what? My partner then didn't get the visa.
Wow. So what were you thinking at that time?
To be honest, I didn't know what exactly to do, but I knew I wasn't staying because I've gotten the visa. And I know there's not enough money. I literally had $300 in my pocket. And I'm coming to Australia. I'm coming to Tasmania. And I'm starting school soon. And I have a payment plan for the school. So for me, I was like, you know what? There's a reason why you got this visa. Like everything in your life has just been happening without you thinking too much about it. You just jump and you just find a way. So go. I bought my tickets. I didn't know where I was going to sleep when I arrived.
Oh.
No idea, nothing. No one. I don't know a single soul in Australia. Like I don't know one person. I don't know one person. Even like I'm so serious. I don't know one person in Australia. No one. And I'm not coming with family. Nobody. $300 in my pocket. Phew.
And you're also coming from a country where there's virtually nobody living in Australia from that place.
So I was just, even in the plane, I was like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? Let me text the agent that's bringing me here and ask her, since I'm the first client from Africa she's ever getting, let me ask her. It's Emerged Consultancy, apparently. Like, that's the name of they're Filipinos, but they're here and they do student visas for international students. And so I asked her, I was like, do you have a room or somewhere, like, if I could just stay for just a couple weeks, and I'm sure I'm going to find something, a job, and I should be all right. Then she was like, okay, we have a room, but you're going to be here for a month. And that's what I can do for you. And I was like, oh, I appreciate it a lot. A month is enough for me to get on my feet or do anything and everything. And she was like, okay, if you say so. Good. I arrived. They came to pick me up from the airport. They had a little party, like, because a student came and everything. And they also encouraged me that my partner is going to come. They're going to reapply for the visa and hopefully she's going to get it. But at that point, we are not sure if this relationship is going to happen anymore because look at, I'm already here. If we are not going to see each other, it's almost a year now this was the 9th or 8th month at this moment from Israel. I've not seen her.
Yeah.
And not having the visa is more disappointment. And she was like, oh, she has some money to go to another country, and it wasn't, so we were not seeing each other again. So it was like, this is not working anymore. We have to just focus on our lives. What I did was, I wake up in the morning, I got my bus card, I go to the city center in Elizabeth Street, where they have the whole mall and everything. Yeah. I sit down there and I look for a black person.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not a stupid plan, actually, at all.
That's all I was doing.
Okay.
And it took, I can see 4 black people in a day.
Yep.
And I just rushed to them. I'm like, hey, what's good? And they're like, oh, I'm good. And I'm like, oh, I just came here. I've not been here for That's literally what I was doing.
Oh,
and they'll be like, oh, okay. Do you know any community? I was like, oh, in my country, there's no community, but we have neighbors. Whether it's the Ghanaian community, Nigerian community, I can relate to them. Just put me in anyone. That's how I was going. I joined the Nigerian community, and I kept doing that. Wake up in the morning, shower, look nice, come to Elizabeth Street, sit down, wait. And I was applying for jobs too because I printed CVs and I was going to different places. I'll apply. After that, I just come and sit down and wait. And a lot of them were helpful. They gave informations. They said, oh, this is what you have to do to settle. You have to look for jobs this way, this and that, this and that. And there was this man. Now I was getting to the end of the month. Like, it's left with a week and 2 days for me to leave the house. There's pressure. And all the jobs I've applied for, they're like, if you don't have a car, you can't move, so we can't give you the job. I was like, now I'm down. At this point, I'm down to $30 in my bank. And I went there that day. I sat down. And I saw a black man go. Caught up with him. His name was Gozie. And he's Nigerian. I was like, how are you doing? He was like, oh, I'm fine. I was like, oh, I just came not long ago. He was like, oh, that's good. He was like, oh, I'm just going for a break right now. We can catch up some other time because I'm at work. Because he works as a disability support worker. Okay. And I told him, oh, you're going for break? Why don't I just get you a burger? I can buy it for you. No worries, it's on me. And that was my last money. I went in there. I bought him a burger. He ate and he was like, oh, thank you so much. Is there anything you need? I was like, I need a car. And he was like, there's a car at home. And my wife actually drives it, but now she wants to get a new car. We can sell it to you and you're going to pay later on when you have the money. I was like, what? He said, yeah, you can come and take it.
Wow. That was very generous.
Very generous. Like, till today, he's still... I always revert to him like every time, And I went to take his car that day. I didn't pay anything. Zero. He gave me the car keys. He changed the name. Went to tax office. He changed it into my name and everything. And just like he sold me a car without paying any money. Immediately I got the car. I started doing delivery jobs. And... now, at this point, I have 4 days to leave the house. I started looking for apartments on Facebook where I can just find anywhere. And I found another Nigerian man who was looking. I didn't know he was Nigerian. I went to the house and he's Nigerian. I was like, oh, I'm looking for a place to stay. And he was like, oh, okay, sure. Do you have a job? I said, no. He said, so how are you going to pay? I said, I will find a job. I'll get a job. Then he was like, normally we don't do that, but because you're my person, just come. And it was for 3 months. He said, if you can't be okay in 3 months, then I can't help you, I came. He even assisted me with some information. He assisted me a lot with information on how to even get more delivery jobs, this. And that's how I started working, earning some money, paid my school fees a bit, and finally I got a job on the farm. Mm-hmm. So it was now a stable job, and I had to quit the other one and everything. So and this is a space of 3 months. 3 months in, I was good.
But that must have been a pretty stressful couple of months at the start.
It was. Every night I'm crying. Literally, every night I'm crying. But I must not make them back home know. Because it won't help, And I have a lot of videos. I put it up. I'm like, I'm going to be fine. It's just a test of time. Blah, blah, blah. You've made it this far. You should be proud of yourself. And I start counting my blessings. And I'm like, there's no reason to go back from now. It can only get better. And my ex right now, my former partner, she got her visa. Okay. And she came here. Yeah, and I'm happy for her too that she came and she just continued with her life now. And she played a very big part in my life because I wouldn't be here without her. It's amazing.
It is amazing. So what are you studying?
I'm studying agribusiness and horticulture.
Okay.
So now I'm still on agribusiness and I'm still on the path of getting to settle permanently. And Yeah. Like I've done, and funny enough, I get some little breaks, like especially holiday time. Like I just, when it's holiday time, because there's no limitation and everything, I do. I've done dishwashing. That was the first kitchen job I've done, and I also work part time in a cafe. And now I know how to make coffee very well. I make coffee very well, and also I was on the billboard in Hobart
For the
for the Mona stuff. And you know the funny thing? People always tell you, oh, there's racism everywhere you go, or this, that, 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 that. I actually haven't seen it here. I'm not lying. Like, okay, maybe because I'm from Africa, I don't really see racism. Because to be honest, if you're from Africa, you don't see it because you're used to everybody being black.
yeah,
So if someone does something racist, the first thing that will come to your head is not the race. It's maybe, oh, he just doesn't want me here.
yeah,
You know, or, oh, I didn't just get it. But speaking with people who were raised here, a lot of them see it as race first
Okay.
before
Yeah.
anything. I promise you, it's when I'm working with like people who were raised here that they see, they're like, oh, that was a racist remark. And I'm like, I don't know what are you talking about? He's just saying his mind. Like, I don't see it, you know. Every 10th of January is the celebration of Voodoo. It's a
Okay.
public holiday in Benin. People come from Brazil, New Orleans, many places to just celebrate Voodoo there. That's where they have the masquerade dance. There's nothing under the masquerade but it's dancing, you know, and many tricks. You're seeing people enter trances, people disappearing, like that, all that in the festival. And for people not to know Benin as the origin, like this is something that's very popular, but people don't trace it to any, like they think of New Orleans or when they're
Yeah.
talking about Voodoo. Voodoo is from Benin. To be honest, before it was, it's been stigmatized, but
Yeah.
now I accept it 100% because I have more knowledge on it and I understand it is just a religion. Every mystic thing, like in Voodoo teaches literally what yin yang teaches. There's a balance in the world, good and evil, and both are very important. The same way Christians have the devil and God. Without the devil, I don't think there will be God, you know, because there's like a balance of good and evil, you know, and that's what makes you know good. Because if there's no evil, you won't know what good is.